President of Myanmar in particular reiterated the assurance that Myanmar's territory would not be permitted to be used against India's security interests.
Myanmar has delivered a message, one that India has wanted to hear for years. Its territory will not be used for any activity against India. Myanmar President Min Aung Hlaing personally conveyed this assurance to Prime Minister Narendra Modi during their bilateral meeting today. This is no routine diplomatic statement. India shares a long border with Myanmar. What happens inside Myanmar often directly spills into India's northeast. For years, instability across the border has fueled concerns over insurgent safe havens, arms trafficking, narcotics networks, and cross-border militant movement. For India, the stakes are particularly high in Manipur, where security agencies have long battled insurgent groups operating across the frontier. But there is an even bigger strategic message hidden in this assurance, a message aimed squarely at China. For years, several insurgent outfits operating along the India-Myanmar frontier have allegedly sourced Chinese-made weapons through networks running across Myanmar's conflict zones. Indian security agencies have repeatedly flagged concerns over Beijing-linked influence in these very regions. China may not be pulling the trigger, but it has often been accused of benefiting from instability along India's eastern flank. This is what makes this assurance significant. At a time when Myanmar is looking to reduce its overwhelming dependence on Beijing, the promise carries strategic weight. The promise has been made, but the question is whether Myanmar has the capacity and the will to turn that promise into action. India shares a 1,640-kilometer land border with Myanmar that runs through 4 northeast states like Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland. For decades, that border has been a corridor for insurgent groups, militants who train, shelter, and arm themselves inside Myanmar before crossing back. India's security forces have often flagged how these insurgents get help from Beijing and are armed with Chinese weapons. It is against this precise backdrop that the security assurance carries enormous weight. And then there is the rare earths prize, which makes this visit truly strategic beyond security. Myanmar's Kachin and Shan states hold massive deposits of rare earth elements, including dysprosium and terbium. Both of these components are used in permanent magnets for electric vehicles, wind turbines, defense hardware. These are minerals currently extracted overwhelmingly by China. India wants access. Foreign Secretary Misri confirmed that critical minerals and rare earths came up during the Modi-Aung Hlaing talks. Both governments agreed to continue staying in touch on these issues and to take forward cooperation in these strategic sectors.
Issues related to critical minerals and rare earths did come up during the discussions today. This is something that has been a subject of bilateral discussions for some time.
A Myanmar rare earth supply chain independent of Beijing would be a significant strategic win for Delhi, chipping directly at one of China's most powerful economic levers. And then there are the projects that cannot wait. India has invested billions and over a decade of diplomatic capital in 2 very critical infrastructure projects that would connect its landlocked northeast to Southeast Asia. Both are stalled. The Kaladan Multi-Modal Transport Project runs through the Rakhine state, where, as of today, active hostilities between the Myanmar army and ethnic armed groups have made construction near impossible. The India-Myanmar-Thailand Trilateral highway segment is also located in an area where ethnic armed groups and people's defense forces are actively engaging the Myanmar military. Now, this trilateral highway connecting Moreh in Manipur to Mae Sot in Thailand is India's Act East policy made concrete, literally a road from India's interior to Southeast Asia. Myanmar's president gave his assurance that his government would do everything, and I put that everything in quote unquote, to push both projects to completion. Now, it has been under construction since 2017. It is not finished, and every year that it stays unfinished, China's road network through Myanmar gets more complete and more dominant. India has maintained ties with Myanmar's military-backed administrations, prioritizing its own national security, geopolitical interests, and economic investments over Western sanctions. The West has called it out. India has not flinched. For India, the visit is an opportunity to dilute China's outsized influence on Myanmar. India hosting Min Aung Hlaing is a de facto recognition of his political status. The two leaders had already met on the sidelines of the BIMSTEC summit in Bangkok last year. This time, India has made it diplomatically clear that geography and strategy come before Western optics. Myanmar sits at the confluence of India's neighborhood first policy, its Act East policy, and its Indo-Pacific vision. Letting China fill that space, arming proxies, building roads, locking in rare earth extraction was never an option New Delhi was prepared to accept. Since the military coup 5 years ago, this is the first time that Myanmar's president has visited India. Since taking charge, Myanmar has been battling internal conflicts and growing influence of China. The Myanmar president's visit is aimed to reduce dependency on Beijing, and India offers it the leverage it needs. China sees Myanmar as a corridor to the Indian Ocean. India, on the other hand, sees Myanmar as the gateway to Southeast Asia. The battlefield of modern geopolitics now also depends on supply chains, minerals, ports, roads, technology, and influence. The message from Delhi is clear. India intends to compete, and Myanmar may no longer want only one powerful neighbor calling all the shots.